What comes next with the SAT stuff? We'll talk about it coming up.
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen today and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, which is today's sponsor. New customers can place a $5 bet and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Head to FanDuel.com to get started.
All right, welcome in. I am Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Connor Happer of 1620 The Zone is here. As you said, Connor, it is Tuesday. It's election day. Go vote if you haven't done that. Monday was Matt Rhule's day during this bye week to be up on the stage in front of the media. Still does it in a bye week, even after a loss. So that's good. That's all we're going to hear from Nebraska in this public space this bye week. Huskers are going to be busy recruiting, busy game planning, getting ready for USC on November 16th. Still smarting. I think the program is trying to recover from, the team is trying to recover, maybe is a better way to put it, after that 27-20 loss on Saturday against UCLA. So we will see how this week progresses and what state of mind Nebraska's in next week. On Monday, it was an interesting space. So we're going to start with the most pressing topic that Matt Rhule addressed, his play caller, offensive coordinator Marcus Satterfield. And you knew it was coming. There were multiple people in the room who were ready to ask the question about what Rhule plans to do with his play calling situation in Marcus Satterfield, because it hasn't been working. It didn't work during this 3-game stretch between the byes. Nebraska went 0-3 in that stretch. And Rhule bought himself a little bit of time, I thought. He said that he's bringing in some, quote, outside people to assess the situation. This was right off the bat, the first 2 or 3 minutes. Yep. This is not exactly what I would look at as an endorsement of how much you trust the people who are in the room at the Osborne Athletic Complex, but that's just where they're at. It is what it is, as coaches and players tend to say. So let's listen to Matt Rhule talk about the outside voices and what he expects that to accomplish this week at Memorial Stadium.
I think my job is always to consider everything. I think part of that is, what are the problems? What are the issues? It's looking at everything. So I think one of the first things I'm doing this week is, I have a lot of friends in the business, had some outside people kind of come in and look at, hey, tell me what you see. And I think that's probably, at least in my history, one of the best things you can do is just have a fresh set of eyes, look at it. And so I'm going to have some people that I trust look at both us on offense and on defense, and kind of look at what we're doing, and then go from there.
Outside people, excuse me.
He's basically bringing in the Bobs from Office Space.
Tell me what you do here,
Bob.
Can you tell me what you do here exactly?
So he's got the Bobs coming in this week, which is probably not good, because when the Bobs come in, it doesn't turn out well for the people who are actually there. It's either that, Mitch, or like it's one of two things. It's looking at things and saying, all right, I know kind of what we need to do here, but let's bring these guys in, let's get the word on it, and then we'll sort of make some decisions after that. Or I sensed a little bit of this throughout his press conference yesterday. There are some spaces where I genuinely think he's really struggling to find the answers on why it's not working, on what's not going right. And I think that more strays toward what happens when Nebraska goes out in the field, like from a mental perspective. I like that has been the chief problem, and it hasn't, and he can't fix it right now because he doesn't know the answer to it. He's identified it. He doesn't know the answer to it. So it probably strays a little bit more toward that, but I think there's a lot of different stuff going on. Introspective was the word he used at the start of the press conference. You heard it there. Just sort of look at everything. So we'll see what that results in this week. But there's a lot of thoughts, I think, going on over on One Memorial Stadium Way or whatever it is.
Yeah, there's a clip going around social media where Matt Rhule was asked by Sam McEwen of the Omaha World Herald if he could explain what's not working about the offense, and
yeah,
he didn't have a
paused. Yeah,
yeah, it was. We won't play that one here. I think that context is important there, but it spoke to. I think just the confusion of the moment that Nebraska did not expect to be in this spot. I was watching Monday Night Football last night, and I was watching the Peyton and Eli version. I generally enjoy that better than Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, and they had, of course, Bill Belichick on. He's on every episode, and some other guests who I was looking forward to hearing from. And at the end, when the Bucks had the ball and Baker Mayfield was going down to driving Tampa Bay down against a very good Kansas City defense on the road, 500 type team on the road against an unbeaten 2-time defending Super Bowl champ in a hostile environment on Monday Night Football. Eli Manning said something that resonated with me when it comes to Nebraska. He said, this is where you go to don't make it too complicated, and you go to what your best plays are. Whatever your bread and butter is, whatever the plays are that you feel most comfortable running, that's what you run here. And I thought, wow, that doesn't sound too difficult. Like, what?
If only those existed.
They have to exist. Like, you have to feel most comfortable with something, even if you don't feel all that comfortable with it. Like, there are plays that you run in practice that you feel comfortable with, right? And that's what Tampa Bay did. It scored, and then the Chiefs kind of did the same thing in overtime, and they scored and won.
Yeah.
Why is it so hard? Why do you have to bring in outside people to look at the situation and tell you what's not working? Shouldn't you know that? Shouldn't you be able to just rely on your most strong plays and run them in a time when it's necessary?
I sort of joked about this on Twitter on Saturday night or during the game. But I said, Nebraska must be incredible at the play where they just throw it to Fedoni and he gains 0 yards at the line of scrimmage. They must be incredible at that play in practice.
That goes for a touchdown every time in practice.
They must be really good at it, because the volume at which they throw that play compared to their other plays is sort of absurd. And so it makes me think that they are able to execute these things in practice, and it's just not working in the game. And Nebraska's defense is generally pretty good, although it has lapses from game to game and you can't really trust it anymore, but it's generally pretty good. So, when they have these periods during the week where they're going ones on ones, like, that's a real look. And I would assume that Nebraska's offense is able to execute some things in practice, or maybe the whole thing is just broken altogether. So, once again, I think what Rhule is talking about is just the mental side and why they're not able to take what they do in practice over to the game, or why they're not able to execute the simplest of things when asked to do X, that's what block. Yeah. It doesn't happen that way in games. And it's wild to me.
A somewhat off the topic question, but it's related to the tight ends. You bringing up Thomas Fedoni and the short pass it reminded me of this question that I had during the game to myself. Why doesn't Nebraska incorporate the second tight end in its passing game? Because we've seen they have guys who have ability to make plays at the tight end spot beyond Thomas Fedoni. And aside from the short passes that don't work, like, they're involving him more in the offense. He hasn't gotten in the end zone this year, which is disappointing. And thought he would have had 6 or 7 touchdowns by now. But why not? Why not run a little more power, some power sets with 2 tight ends? Because it's a position that the OC coaches, and this was supposed to be a position that where they were improved this year. And you have Nate Borkricher and some younger players, and at least keep the defense off balance. They're not expecting Nebraska to throw to the other tight end, but we're rarely seeing that get involved. It seems like a weapon that's available to Nebraska in this offense that it's not going to. And that's That's different than running the things that work best.
Right.
But it's just another example to me of how Nebraska's not fully utilizing, one, the weapons that it can trust and has on the field, and then two, the things that it can do beyond that that it should have at its disposal if those plays aren't working.
Nebraska's on a search right now to find something or anything that works. So like any idea that I hear from you or anybody else that we talk to on these shows or, think about during the week, like it kind of sounds like a decent idea, right? Because they're just swimming around in this giant ocean of stuff that doesn't work right now.
Yeah.
And you're hoping that there's a buoy out there somewhere.
Yeah, they're supposed to have all these tight ends running all over the field this year. Like it was a deep position, and Satterfield upgraded it with his eyes, and it's really just like Fedoni on some decent intermediate routes, and then plays that don't work, and then Borkacher had the 2-point conversion against Ohio State that was great, but where is that in the offense? And the other question I want to pose before we get to the end of this segment: what do you think these outside people are being asked to do? Are they asked to look at this on like a detail level? Like, can you help us fix the offense? Or is it like, can you come in and take a look at the operation and let us know where you think there might be some blind spots?
I would hope that it's the operation, because I think that like Nebraska's players are not playing up to their capability. Bottom line, like Nebraska has better players than what they're showing. So why is that happening across the board? That's what they have to figure out. Why aren't these guys either confident enough or, in the right situations to be able to have success in the games?
Yeah, I think it's a strategy in part to buy Rhule some time.
Yeah.
I think that he can go down that road this week, and it's calculated. There is a value to hearing what somebody on the outside who he trusts might have to say, but it also gives him a few days. If he's going to do something and shift responsibilities with the play callers, he doesn't want it to play caller. He doesn't want it to come off as rash. He doesn't want it to come off as reactionary because they didn't score enough points. It couldn't finish a drive in the fourth quarter against UCLA. He wants it to be reflective of a situation where they analyzed things on a deeper level. So with a bye week, this is a perfect time to do this. And if he's going to make a change, and I don't know, I'm totally on the fence on this. I think he might before the last 3 games, but if he's going to do it, they have time. Like they can institute that next week and still be totally okay as far as like the game planning and what they're going to do. So we'll see where next week goes. It may not even be something that's like announced. Like we may just find out like after the USC game that they did things differently from an operational standpoint on offense, in part because of the advice they received from outside people.
A couple more clips from Matt Rhule coming up on the other side. And then Rhule talked about those players and accountability and all those things in between. So lots still to cover here on the Locked On Nebraska podcast.
Okay, it is time for our Roy Player of the Week. We're going to highlight one individual. First, I want to tell you about Roy. Roy is a new platform that lets fans make contributions directly to their favorite athletes. Download the Roy app for iOS or Android. Enter the referral code Locked On, and you'll automatically be entered in a sweepstakes to win $5,000 cash. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. But that's not the only great thing about Roy. This week, we've selected Ja'Cory Barney Jr. as the Roy Player of the Week at Nebraska because of his strong play at wide receiver against UCLA. You saw him out there helping Dylan Raiola, making plays on the ball, just continuing to improve. He's one player throughout this season that you can look at and say his level of play has not diminished. He has continued to make plays as the season went on. He was a force against the Bruins, a big part of Nebraska's offense. If you were impressed with Ja'Cory Barney Jr., show him some love. Just hop on Roy, display your appreciation for his standout performance, as well as what he continues to bring to this program. Get off the sidelines and get into the NIL game today with Roy.
And I'd like to tell you a little bit about the FanDuel Sportsbook. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The app is fantastic. I say this as a user of the app myself, the all-in-one place to get your, whether it's NFL Sundays covered, college football Saturdays, it's all there for you. So even during the middle of the games, when the games are already going on, you get that hunch, you can go to the app, check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and all the other things on the FanDuel Sportsbook app right where you place your bets. I actually like to look at it as a to get a sense of like what people think of where the game is headed. You know, what's the total for the game right now? What's the live line look like? It's great. Head to FanDuel.com. Join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's with our friends from FanDuel. Head to FanDuel.com today to get started. All right, we are back. Connor Happer, Mitch Sherman with you. Download our podcast. Check us out on YouTube if you're not doing so already. I don't have a live number, but I think we're over 4,900 YouTube subscribers. Look at that. So we want to get to 5,000. We have a challenge for you all. We have to get to 5,000 or something. We'll have to bring in the Bobs to figure out what's going to happen next if we don't get to 5,000 by the USC game. So
I'm confident we can do it.
Yeah, I think so too. College basketball opening day was yesterday. Nebraska basketball beat UTRGV. They were up by 4 with 5 minutes left.
It went by 20, Connor.
They were up by 4 with 5 minutes left. And the women beat UNO by 40 yesterday in front of 4,000 screaming kids. That was definitely fun for everybody who was sitting courtside. Oh, it was great. It was awesome. There was a lot of fouls. There was a lot of basketball players playing, and there was a lot of screaming. That was the game. Yeah.
Do you practice how you're going to say the players' names when they score a bucket? Do you have to come up with like a specific way to say someone's name when you have a new player who's a freshman and you haven't done it?
No, I sort of feel it out as as a situation dictates. But like, I mean, obviously you get the pronunciations and everything like that. But as far as how exactly
cadence, the emphasis, like a signature way to say someone's name.
I've been working on like really for Brit Prince. I've been working on really hammering Brit and then kind of coming down a little bit on Prince, like Prince. I tested it out a little bit yesterday. I don't know if people liked it. We'll see what the feedback looks like on that.
Okay, good. Thought Andrew Morgan looked good in the post for the Nebraska men on Monday night. Watched a little bit of that game. How about Raleigh Wooster?
Yeah,
I don't know. Is he legit? Like he turned the ball over a few times when I was turning it back and forth between that and MNF, and I heard some good commentary about Raleigh. But I was like, really? Was it good? Nebraska hasn't had a good point guard in a long time, so nice to see that they may have a point guard. So as the basketball season goes on, if Nebraska continues to play well, we'll talk about Nebraska. Creighton's got UTRGV on Wednesday in downtown Omaha. So I don't know what their mascot is, but they get to spend
Vaqueros.
Vaqueros?
I don't know what a vaquero is.
Yeah, they get to spend Monday. They get to spend Monday in Omaha, probably. A nice rainy, dreary, cold Monday. Probably different from the Rio Grande Valley experience that they get in southern Texas.
A vaquero is a cowboy in Spanish.
All right.
There you go.
Good. That's appropriate for the UT Rio Grande Valley University. All right. Enough. Also on Monday in Lincoln, Matt Rhule went somewhere that we've really not heard him go before, Connor. Without calling out his players, he said, quote, "It's important that they take accountability." He added, "We don't call any plays that they can't execute. When they jump up and make the catch, it's great job, Isaiah. When they jump up to make the catch and they don't make the catch, it's come on, Sat. So I just want everyone, I want all of us inside of our program to take accountability together." Fine. That's fine. Let's hear more on that in that conversation.
And so I'd like to see us have 3 games where we go out and we absolutely fight, scratch, claw, and compete. And that's honestly, that's the danger with my job's hard. In that's the danger with all the SAT stuff. Yeah, it's not good enough. We get that. But then it takes all the pressure off of the guys that are on the field. Like, hey, go make a play. Like, go catch a ball and make a play. Like, you can't catch the ball and fall down. You got to catch the ball and go make a play. And that's the that's the slippery slope of this world. And so I think I have to really look at my approach this week. Am I being demanding enough? Am I being tough enough? Am I being hard enough?
Are we about to see the not so nice Matt Rhule?
Man, executive button pusher. He's got some buttons to push.
This might be more than button pushing. This might be like, hey, get ready for me to lay into you if you're not exactly executing the way that we expect.
But through his 22 games, 21 games, 22 games of being the head coach at Nebraska, now like haven't we seen the wide array of what Matt Rhule could be in terms of, like how he deals with, like, I just think he's just,
we haven't seen him. One thing we haven't seen is him throw players under the bus.
Yeah. That's a little different.
We have seen that at Nebraska.
that is where you go when I just think he's like searching for answers. I don't think they have cracked this code of why it's not working. Not in terms of like, the offensive, they're going to look at all the operation and stuff like that. But once again, going back to what I said before, just why they can't, translate some things over from the practice field. Once they have good players, I think like maybe a better way to approach that would have been, we have good players. We have good players. Our players are good enough, and we have to find a way to get them to be good players on the football field all the time, consistently. He had a long spiel yesterday about how, like, somebody he knows since he's been here, a close friend, texted him and said, man, it must be killing you guys. You're inconsistent right now. And he said, that hurt me, like it's just an inconsistent football team right now. And I don't think that he knows how to fix it at the moment. And that's pretty scary.
They can't even be consistently bad. Can't even accomplish that.
Yeah.
Like they go and have a good game and get your hopes up and play the most talented team or second most talented team in the country within 4 points. And
if you're going to be bad, right?
Yeah.
They're not. They're clearly not bad. They're clearly pretty good. That's what makes it all the more frustrating.
Yeah. So on the stuff about the SAT stuff, which is that was the clip there that had the SAT stuff. So he almost kind of brushes over it in that moment, and he says, "Yeah, with all the SAT stuff, like we know it's not good enough, but that's neither here nor there in this. But that is a big deal. Like, let's not just set that aside, right? I understand you're trying to make a point in that moment about the players, and if they don't catch the ball, then it should be on them instead of the OC. But like, continue to work to put them, and they're doing this. Do a better job of putting them in the position to make plays. That's what coaching is. So I don't know. Again, what I come back to at the end of all of this is it just seems too damn hard for Nebraska football right now to even get to the place where it scores 24, 27 points a game, which will almost every week be good enough to win. And it would have been good enough to win without the pick six if they had done that on Saturday, even after all of that mess at the beginning of the game. So, all right. When we come back, we will talk more about Matt Rhule's Monday news conference, including some comments about the future. He got into that a bit at the end of things on Monday. That's next.
All right, it's Apper here for ZBiotics. ZBiotics Pre Alcohol Probiotic Drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not the dehydration like people think, that's to blame for your rough next day, the hangover. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make ZBiotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly. You'll feel your best tomorrow. So that's the process, right? You drink ZBiotics at the start of the night. Then you have your good time. You drink responsibly, pace yourself, hydrate, do all the things, and get a good night of sleep. And then you get to enjoy tomorrow. Wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on your day. That sounds awesome to me. Head to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege and learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use that code lockedoncollege at checkout. ZBiotics backed with 100% money back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund you. No questions asked. Remember, head to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege. Use that code lockedoncollege and you're going to get 15% off at checkout.
We're back on this Tuesday, final segment of the Locked On Nebraska podcast. I'm Mitch Sherman from The Athletic. Connor Happer of 1620 The Zone is here with me. Last thing from Matt Rhule's news conference on Monday that we want to discuss here came from a question that I asked him about his level of concern in keeping things together with the roster as the Huskers are here and struggling late in the season. Big decisions on the horizon for everyone in college football. That's just the reality of the sport these days. December is a more tumultuous time than it has ever been. It's something that doesn't resemble any professional sport. It's like free agency, but you want to pull your hair out with
you can't make trades,
right. Right. That's coming. Maybe not. So Rhule kind of made clear, I thought, how he felt on this. This was a definitive answer about whether he's concerned that the Huskers' struggles could cost them next month. Here's what he had to say.
If you want players to come play for you, they need to see progress, right? They need to see that, okay, we are better this year than last year. But I'm not going to chase players on our roster. Like, if you're here, you get taken care of so well. I mean, you get taken care of so well. And, you have guys that are here from other schools. Ask them. I mean, they'll tell the guys. So it's natural when you're on a 3-game losing streak for guys to be like, man, I'm frustrated to start. Maybe I'll go there. Maybe I'll go. That's natural. I mean, I think every freshman goes through that, every year. And I only need about 22 guys to play the next week. So we got a lot of guys that love it here. But we have to show progress. But that's the goal. Like, the goal is to make progress, not to show progress, right? The goal is to be better than we were. And so, we've seen some moments. The Colorado game, we've seen some moments. The Ohio State game where we see what we could be. It's just not consistent yet. I'm not going to start worrying about. We have a great thing going here, and we have recruits all across the country that want to come here, and there'll be kids lining up. If we said, hey, we'll take you, there'll be kids lining up to come here. So I don't worry about any of that. I care deeply about my players.
He doesn't worry about any of that. Just said that a few times.
Coaches don't think in the terms that we think about it, in terms of like the big picture, in terms of perception. So I thought the line of the goal is not to show progress, the goal is to make progress. Like, I thought that was actually pretty good. That was kind of a bar there by Matt Rhule. That was a good line. So he's right. Like, they're trying to think about day by day. All right, how do we get this thing better? And I think he was almost realizing, like, in the moment, oh crap, like, yeah, you're kind of right. Like, if we don't show something in the next couple games, that if we end this season on this really, really sour note that we're on right now, it's probably not going to be that attractive to people. Like, I think he knows that, but it's not on the, and I don't think it should be, frankly, on the top of his mind. Like, the thing that should be
a lot to think about
mind is to win the football games and be better.
That'll take care of the other stuff.
Yeah, exactly. That takes care of all the rest.
He said he only needs 22 next week, and let's not take that literally, because you need more than 22 to win a game. But, he kind of laid it down. Like, if you're, I think what his attitude is going to be if a player comes in and says, hey, coach, I'm thinking about this, or I'm looking around, he'll say, hey, you get treated well here, but if it's something that you feel that you need to do, we're good. Like, we've got enough. And then the part also about how there are players all over the country who would line up to come here and play. There are, but are there players all over the country who would help you win in the Big Ten?
Are they good?
that will line up there to play, right? Like, you can find players. You can find high school football players in the portal who will be happy to come and reap the rewards of everything that Nebraska athletes experience when they're under that roof. But are these the players that you need, that you want, that can beat Iowa and Wisconsin and USC?
Nebraska, because what we're bordering on in that conversation is like, because coaches usually mention that, hey, all I need is 22. Just give me 22 guys, and we could roll the ball out there, and we'll be just fine. Like, coaches kind of have that refrain from time to time when things are in troubled waters. They're like, I'm gonna have people kind of quitting or whatever. That I like pretty definitively, because we've seen Nebraska's been in crisis management mode for like the last decade, basically. That has just, except for the end of 2017, probably, that has never happened. I don't think it's in there. I don't think it's in the DNA of its players and its coaching staff. Like, they're not gonna have a bunch of dudes just all of a sudden float away and leave and quit over the last couple weeks of the season. Nebraska will respond. They always respond. It's just about getting them to this consistent place where they can, live up to what their star rankings say they are, and what what everybody looks like. When you look at Isaiah Nair, for example, like that, how many receiving yards does that guy have this year? Like 250,
I was going to say about 300. Let me look.
I mean, whatever the number is, Nebraska has 3 games left in the season. It's not enough, and that's
not what he came here for.
Exactly. So you look at that guy and you're like, wow, that guy, I think I look at that guy and I say, that is probably an NFL player. I think that guy could
408.
408's not horrible, but right. I mean, that guy is capable of having 1,000-yard season.
He's going to end with 500, 550. Yeah.
It's not going to happen. Right. That guy's an NFL player. He's got an NFL, like profile to him. He doesn't look like it here at Nebraska. So that's their sort of challenge. I think they have to find that.
Yeah. What do you think the rest of the week is like? In Lincoln, focus for Nebraska on going out on the road and recruiting. It's a big weekend of quarterfinal playoffs in the state of Nebraska. They're gonna venture far out from the state of Nebraska too. You'll see them with their continued renewed focus in Missouri, Kansas City, St. Louis. They got to get somebody probably into the South, whether it's Florida or Georgia. Nebraska has recruited well in the state of Florida in the last class, and then it lost Philip Simpson to Florida State. He was not a full-time staffer, but that was an important piece. They don't have Evan Cooper, who was a big part of recruiting Florida. So I think they need to try to establish a little bit more in that part of the country, because it obviously paid dividends in the last class. So there'll be some focus on that kind of stuff this week. Yeah. But what else? Where do you think we hear out of Lincoln here between now and the time that we get revved up next Monday?
I don't know. You always have to manage the, like, is this a good moment to sort of just take a step back and take a deep breath, or is this a moment where we absolutely turn the key to full throttle? Like, we have to. And I think Matt Rhule is probably programmed a little bit more closer to that way with his own football team. Like, we got to grind and figure this out. I'm going to have some late nights. Dylan Raiola is going to be opening up the door and hit me in the head again, while I'm laying on the floor. I think that's probably, so if you when you see him next week at the start of next week, or, when they go to USC next Saturday, you're probably going to see some tired dudes. I would imagine they're going to hit it pretty hard.
Yeah. It's better than the alternative. And I think that's the direction that they'll go, because I think one thing that he does know about this team is that they aren't going to back down from work. They're not going to back down from a challenge. They may not meet that challenge. As we've seen, it's inconsistent, but they're going to attack it head on. So that's probably what we'll get out of Nebraska for the rest of the week. And then we'll hear about it next Monday and Tuesday, but we'll be here to continue to talk to you for the rest of this week. We'll have a mailbag show late in the week. We'll have our picks on Friday. So thanks for tuning in today. Make sure you go out and vote. That's our final message to you on this Election Tuesday. Thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen. Now go out and check out the Locked On College Football Podcast. Spencer McLaughlin over there has got everything you need to get through week 11 of an exciting season. You can find the link to his show, to that show, the Locked On College Football Podcast, in the description of this show. So there is no need to search. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.